Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone's having a great start to your day. Big Beat, how's your day going so far, my man?
Well, let's see. We talk about the markets, and then there's another tariff talk about 200% on European liquor. Why? Because they put 25% on, we're going to put 200% on. It does not make any difference. It makes sense to me. And you know, it's affecting the markets right now. We were seeing a bump back up again. But the dollar, the Dixie now 103.95. So to me, that's a little nervous again. Here we go again, right? 10-year, 30-year pushing back up a little bit. To me, we need to see some clarity here out of the government before we start to. But I call the bottom, and I'm still sticking by that. I'm still right, and I'm going to stick by that. And I still say we continue to buy. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I again, PPI, my thing was more too, the timing of the tweet was about a minute or two before PPI came out, which was good numbers, came in at 0 on an increase, expected to be up 0.3%. So that was positive. And the market sort of started to like it and then sort of couldn't decide whether they liked it or not because the tweet came out again about that. So we'll see what happens there. Steve, one you've been talking about as to keep an eye on for a surge that you liked it being bought, but a little bit of a different move there. Intel here got a new CEO, and let me pull up our charts here. And it has that stock moving up really nicely here, up 13.73% and moving up to the upside still. Are you happy with the decision there?
Yeah, I mean, as we've been talking about this, the themes that I've been saying the whole time, right? There's an opportunity here for a cheap stock. They have the distribution. Someone's going to come in and fix the problem, right? And if it's not another company, then it's going to be the government comes in with money. Okay, well, the government came in with money. Now, what are you going to do? Well, you still got a problem at the top. So guess what they did? They replaced the guy at the top. So,
yep.
And I'll tell you,
see Lip Bhutan is going to be the CEO. He had been on the board but left because of strategic disagreements.
Correct.
I think that's what's got this moving up because he was at he was somebody banging the table saying, we aren't doing this right. We're falling behind. We need to do it. So, they've had some big misses in the AI driven semiconductor boom because they, have been investing heavy in chip manufacturing, but not the right chips. So, we're talking there that stock's lost 60% in 5 years. So yeah. And again, he is experienced with their cadence design systems. And, with that kind of background, it's looked at to be pretty, a big move. So, we'll see if it can get moved up and up nicely here at 13.44%. And one that hasn't slowed down so far. So normally here is that, I've been warning everybody, right, to be careful and, sell off these if you were in Intel, which I would be still advising you to take some profits here and put some stop losses in because you're up 13% overnight. But this one hasn't done that turning top yet. It's still going up to the upside. So we are seeing some good news there. On the other side of that, Adobe got beat down pretty hard here on earnings, now down 7.33%. They did have actually revenues that beat slightly. First quarter revenue came in at 5.71 billion, a little bit above expectation, and net income stood at about the expectation of 1.81. They didn't change their guidance, but they didn't raise it. But what we saw was 15 analysts have already reduced their price targets on Adobe since that, including Deutsche Bank moving them, downgrading them from a buy to hold. And part of the problem there is investors are concerned about their pace in monetizing its AI initiatives, especially with the rising competition from startups. So Adobe definitely getting hit here. Both sides of the needle here today would be those two for sure. Intel to the upside, Adobe to the downside.
Yeah, I mean, look, you still have a situation here where AI could easily start to make a move into Adobe's and cut into their margin a little bit, right? When I see contracts being signed, some are being an Adobe, some are in DocuSign, but making pictures anymore and creating
the world of PDFs has sort of died off, right?
Right. Correct. Yeah.
and they're not, and like you're saying, what would be working is if they had them like Dolly E there, where you could say, hey, create me a PDF. And I would, like you've been doing with tables. I know a lot with AI and stuff like that. You've been making some great ones and posting them up on our X feed. They haven't been in that sort of realm yet. They're starting to move there, but it's been slow.
I
Another
will
one
say
here
that
getting hit pretty hard, Steve, and more so than this stock individually. This is UiPath. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Could be the first sort of casualty of Doge, right? They talked a lot about government spending. The company attributes the weak forecast to uncertainty in U.S. government spending impacted by President Donald Trump's budget cutting initiatives. So they have lowered their revenue outlook to 330 million from expectations of 367.5 based on their last earnings. So do you think we're going to start to see this across Palantir and some of these other huge defense contractors and other government contractors?
Yes, most definitely. But I will tell you, this is Kathy Woods' favorite. So, for me, I have to think about it from that perspective of,
she's an active buyer down here, probably, is what you're
right. She might just buy it just for the heck of it and say it's too cheap right now and I got to go buy it, right? Be careful here on UiPath. Yes, they're going to lose some contracts with Doge. They haven't done it yet, but they're also a pretty good company and they've got some good things, right? So I don't know that I would be. I mean, I'm not in the stock. I haven't been in a long time. And I like what they're producing, but they aren't on the cutting edge as much as they were.
The other thing that was pointed out is their dependency on U.S. government contracts, that they do most of their business in the Beltway, a huge amount. So that's where I think it's just got, like you said, with the tweets and everything else, it's got investors uncertain. So I'm with you there. You still need to be very wary, even normally where you might say, hey, this is a buy the dip opportunity. A couple of tweets and an upset president could get this stumbling even further. As we start to look here, about 20 minutes away from the open, tick's been pretty neutral all morning, as is advanced decline right around 75. So really not able to see a clear direction so far this morning, because when we get open, that could move either way. But on the good news, that VIX has been dropping down, Steve, now down at 24.19 here. I know that you were beating the drums to get some puts there the other day. Are you still in those, or are you getting out of those?
Nope, I'm going to stay right where I'm at. I like this play here. VIX is going to probably go down to about 22. We killed this one. I know there was a little bit of rockiness at the beginning. I was worried. I was okay with that because I had a feeling that, look, there's a good chance we could go higher, but there's too much FOMO going on. No, I think VIX probably goes to about 22, 22.50, somewhere around there, maybe even lower. If it goes there, it may go right back to 15 or 16 handle, right? So for me right now, I like this. I like this play a lot. I crushed it. You can see it happened back in 2024. Same thing. And it went all the way back. So this was an easy play for me. Now, I'm not as heavy as I was. Like, I went pretty big. But if a lot of people went really heavy on the short side here and then buying the puts, taking some profit on, I expected that from you, right?
Yeah.
People, but this was also a very bullish play. I called the bottom, as everybody knows, and I still think that was the case back on Monday. So. Nice. Right.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of support here at that 23.5 zone to keep an eye on, but any drop below that, like you said, has clear downside right towards your 22 and even below. So nice move there. QQQ is pulling back a little bit here now. It was up as high as 476.80. We're at 476.45. So holding up pretty nicely here, trying to make a move to the upside so far. We'll see what we get when cash markets open. Bitcoin sitting at 82,758, pretty much unmoved right now in the last few days. That starts to get a little worrying because we know what happens, right? We're going to get leverage built up on both sides.
Okay, we're hearing reports now that Trump's family is in talks to take ownership stake in Binance.
What was that?
Trump's family is now in talks to take ownership stake in crypto exchange Binance.
That's interesting. We know they took their first outside investment yesterday from the Saudi, not the Saudi, the Abu Dhabi sovereign fund. The MGX fund was the first fund, the first outside investment that Binance has taken.
Nothing like divesting some of your investments, right? Yeah. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, by the way. So that looks like it's a real deal here coming out.
Could be. We'll see. We will see. But it does look like they are investing pretty heavily. We do know CZ was at the president's summit. So we'll see there if this comes through. It wouldn't surprise me. We know they're making a big move back into the U.S. with Binance.us. So could see that. That was one that they also wanted to take away, or they took away from at one point, that was run by a private equity company here in the U.S. Called BAM, and they pulled it back. So they're looking for outside investment. They are trying to go, more worldwide now that regulations have either been put in place or removed across most of the globe when it comes to crypto exchanges. We'll see how all that works out for sure. As we start to look, the Spiders Select Funds, mixed bag so far. Energy up slightly. Tech, banking, XLP, consumer staples down. We do see financials up a little bit, and real estate actually the big winner so far in the pre-market, XLRE. So keep an eye there. Gold is making a move back to the upside too as the dollar starts to raise here. We see it's back at 29.44. $10 years back at 4.34, your 30-year over 4.65. So rates are starting to go up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, looking at rates right now, for me, I'm concerned because housing prices are starting to come down a bit. And if rates can come down just a wee bit, which we've seen that, right? They're starting to move down. Trump now tweeting says the U.S. doesn't have free trade. We have stupid trade. The entire world is ripping us off. So he is sticking to his guns when it comes to that, right? Looks like the news is really moving this morning here. I will post that too. There you go. It's on Truth Social. He posted that. Looking at from that perspective, it's hard to invest in this market when you don't know who he's going to go after, right? Because multi-international corporations are just part of the interwoven into the fabric of the United States, right? I mean, name me a company that's multi-billion-dollar company, not international, right? It just doesn't work. So I'm a little concerned here about investing, but 24.25 on the VIX. So I think I had and you should watch it. I think you're going to have it set up for 10 o'clock interview with Kevin Green from Schwab Network, talking about how at some point we will just ignore Donald Trump, where he won't be, we won't care, right? We're not there yet, but I kind of agree with that the tweets really doesn't make a difference. So, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we get to that point there. We do have a couple of the other things to talk about on sort of a little bit of a bigger level too. We are seeing a move down by PCAR and Cummings here based on an EPA news. There's a major shakeup in the trucking industry as the EPA moves to reverse previous emissions rules. So they're actually, this was a sort of a surprising one for me because the Trump administration making the EPA guidelines harder and taking away some loopholes that were going to allow trucks to be purchased before a certain date to be grandfathered, and they're removing that, which has both of them down along with some of the European companies on that news. So something to keep in mind on there. That EPA rule announcement has PACCAR down about 6%, Cummins down about 3%. Also has Daimler Truck, Volvo, and Traton seeing declines too. And what it was doing is the EPA is reconsidering 224 rules aimed at reducing passenger vehicle emissions by 50% by 2032 and a 2022 regulation. So the fact that they are going to move forward there has those markets down tremendously here today so far. On the upside, Dollar General had some really good earnings, Steve, there. And what was interesting to me is they are biting into the consumer sort of staples guide. They are getting a lot of their growth here came from things like food, health, beauty, cleaning, and pet supplies. They saw weakness in seasonal home goods and apparel. And they are closed $96 generals that were underperforming there. So they're now expecting 2025 full year guidance of plus 3.4 to 4.4% growth, and same store sales expected to rise between 1.5 to 2.5%. So nice moves up here by Dollar General. I have noticed that the Dollar Generals in my area have been busier and the Walmarts have been a little less busy. So it seems like people are using them more here in the Midwest. I don't know if you're seeing anything there, but looks good for them in general. And Dollar Tree up about $1.70, 1.74% on that news also. Most of the Chinese names getting hit again today. Billy down 2.35%. KC down 4.39%. Lee Auto down 4.14%. So we are seeing a sell-off again across Chinese names here today. So we'll see if that continues. Mag 7 so far. NVIDIA, the only one set to open to the upside. This is sort of flipped because this had been, again, about 6 out of the 7 were looking to open on the upside before the Trump tweets came out here, and it has turned most of them now back down to the negative side. We'll see how that turns. And with 15 minutes towards the open, we now see advanced decline almost flat at 44. Tick still moving down a little bit here, and the VIX actually gaining a little bit back up to 24, 23. So tweets haven't run out of their steam yet, and he keeps them coming fast and furious so far.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the PE ratio of the overall market. I'm gonna share my screen if I can.
Sure.
And I'm just pulling it up now, so let me just pull this up. Present. Hopefully you can see that now. The Case-Shiller PE index, which I pull from all the time, so hopefully everybody can see that right now.
Yep.
The median here is 16.04. Right, that's where the average is, and you can see what the minimum and the maximum. The maximum was back in 1999, which was the .com, and those of us who lived through .com, oof. The mean is, mean to the median, somewhere between the two, 17 to 16. That's where the market should, averages out. That's about right here in this line, right in this line, right here, about right there. And you'll see up here that we're still a little high at 34.95, not quite the high of what we should be at. But I'm going to pull up. I hope you can see this. Share this tab instead. U.S. equity valuations. This kind of Bloomberg's, J.P. Morgan's valuations, and you can see that over the last few months, the Mag 7 to the S&P 500. So you'll see that we're getting back under 22 for our PE ratio. And you just posted, there it is, 23.3 on NVIDIA, right? So, you're looking at it here for the Mag 7. We're getting down to that roughly undervalued stock. Can you believe that?
Yeah, well, I've been beating the drum on it the last few days and sort of been dissuaded by people who say valuations don't matter right now. And I know what everybody sort of means is the market. And that's sort of, so Steve, I would also point this out. What I am finding is when we're trying to talk to some people and explaining what's going on in the markets right now and how you're approaching the market, how a Bill Ackerman approaches the market, how a Warren Buffett, how Peter Lynch did for a year, values matter. You know what I mean? Is right now it might not be the day that these values start to turn, but what happens? People like yourself, big money investors that know how these markets work, saw capitulation on Monday, and now they start to look at these earnings ratios and they start to look at these valuations and they say, you know what? NVIDIA is trading at less. Chipotle is trading at 37.2. I need to get my money out of Chipotle right now, and I need to push it into NVIDIA because it's a better value, and I have much more faith that that's going to regain its value in its stock price, which then moves everything up, right? So I have been beating these tables, and, you know, I'm glad you're jumping on board a little bit here with me on it. And I'm not saying, I want to be careful. I'm not telling people today you should take, if you wanted to have $1,000 in NVIDIA, that you should put $1,000 in today. What I'm saying is if you wanted to buy $1,000 in stock in NVIDIA, let's just say you wanted 10 shares, today's the day to get one of them maybe and to start to nibble. And if it's not today, it's probably sometime in this area where you get your first one, right? And can you talk a little bit about how you would enter a longer term position on something on a value play?
Yeah, it's very simple. I thought I was going to post it today about, you know, like Best Buy on Black Friday, where everybody's rushing in to buy on Black Friday. People buy on the high and sell on the low for some reason. And it's the opposite, right? You want to buy on the low and sell on the high. And if you're looking at valuation, we just talked about, pretty low. I mean, we don't talk about what to buy and sell here, but I will tell you that if you liked NVIDIA at 170, you liked it at 140, you're definitely going to like it at 120, and you can buy it and sell at 116, right? And I bought more a little lower than this.
And that's all I'm saying. Like I said, you know, this is the time, you know, again, I'm not telling you what stock is the stock that is the least value, you know, is the most undervalued right now. What I'm saying is start to look at the stuff. Ask ChatGPT, ask Grok, ask Quasar Markets AI these questions. They have the answers for you. They'll tell you. I just did a simple search, as you know, and said, hey, what in the S&P 500 what were the valuations of, you know, that on January 1 and what are they today? And then I started to look for the ones that are the biggest change and what ones that are best in class, you know, these things that you talk about, right? If you were looking to do this, what would you be looking at? Best in class, things you know. You know, we know you and I have been trying to get the new RTXs, right? We want the Blackwell chips in our computer. Can you get it?
Nope.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying is this is the time to look at PE ratios to get an idea, because the big investors, that's what they're looking at right now. And this is when you see them start to, what will happen is you'll find out in 2 months when Buffett hits the 10%, you know, ownership of a certain stock that he's been acquiring it for the last 60 to 90 days. Steve, can you talk a little bit about that too? Is, you know, one of the things that came up in a couple of interviews this week, we started to talk a little bit about, you know, January 1 isn't when all of the hedge funds and banks just allocate all their money into the stock market, right? It could take 6 months for them to get into whatever their theme is for the year.
Yeah, and I don't think they know what the theme of the year is yet. I think that's the problem. That's what I said earlier, right? That we got to get through these Trump tweets before things happen, right? I'm going to pull up another chart, and I think that a lot of people. Let me see if I can get this. Give me a second here before I pull it up. But so I'm going to pull up a TradingView chart, and I kind of want to show people. All right, so
we'll say tick pretty flat here. Advanced decline has gone back up over 100 here, so seeing a little bit of move to the upside. QQQ right now, it looks like that 476.50 area, key resistance to get through here this morning.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to show you. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy here. I'm just going to show you Apple stock. Now, a lot of people look at my screens and go, "Oh my God, what are all these lines?" And you know, look, I've been doing this 34 years, so I don't expect everybody to understand all of my charts, and I understand that. But this is right here, my histogram. Right there, it is. What's that right there? What's this right here? The RSI oversold, right? And now this is a 3-hour chart. If you don't know, Wall Street works on threes, by the way, if you don't know that. 3 days, 3 hours. I'm pulling a 3-hour chart up here. I want to pull up a daily chart for everybody here. All right, this is a daily chart. So I'm going to pull it out so everybody understands what I'm going to tighten it up. Okay. Right, there's the price right now, 215.80. All right. This is back in September of last year.
Yep.
Yes, it dropped down a little bit more, went from 215 to about 194, but this is June of last year. You're literally getting Apple stock on a year, possibly year and a half, possibly even more, 2 years time frame.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, you pull up Microsoft, I think you'll find a similar type of look to that too.
And when you look at this, yes, I get the linear regression on the daily, but I want to pull up a monthly chart.
Yeah, straight to the moon.
Yes.
That linear can't even keep up.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I just wanted to point out today to everybody is this is the time that you start to, hopefully you've been listening to Steve for the last 2 months, because in January he said he started to pull money out of the markets to have cash on the sidelines, right? And that this is what you use that money for, is to get back into things like this. Whoa, what just happened? Oh, you stopped sharing. Yeah. You stopped sharing on me there a little too quick. No problem. But that is what Steve's talking about there, is the fact that, those are the things you want to look at. If you like we said, it's amazing how stocks is one of those things that nobody wants to buy. Like we're saying right now, when the market's down, everybody wanted to buy it when it was up in December and January. This is when and it's why Steve, it talks, psychology wise, it talks about the difference between the retail investor and the whales, right? Because this is what we talk about, billionaires.
Well, when we say smart money and dumb money, a lot of times I don't like that term, because there's a lot of smart people in the retail sector. But when you say smart money, the Warren Buffett's, people make fun of Warren Buffett. Guess what? Warren was already out when everybody else is trying to run for the exit. I want to mimic him in a lot of ways, right? I want to be the ticker taker when he's sitting on the sidelines when everybody's rushing to the gates and trying to get out. He's already at the door and he's saying, thank you for your shares because you're giving to me cheaper than you own.
And then when that stadium fills back up, he scalps them back to you at a profit.
Correct.
Just think of it. That's all you got to do is think of it like the concert. Nobody wanted the tickets to the concert. You take them all in. And then when everybody wants a seat, he sells them back to you. And Peter Lynch spoke about that. I know you and I both are big fans of his stuff. The Magellan Fund for years was the #1 fund when it came to investing. And as Mr. Flanagan said, that is why he is BigBeat. So, this is why you want to listen to him. This is why, this is what you want to do. This is, like I said, I have been trying to talk about valuations here this week, and everybody wants to shoot it down and no, it's all about the tweet. It's all about this. You're right. It is in the short-term scalping sense of it. But for long-term wealth accumulation, these are the times that people do it. This is, when Steve started yelling at me in March of COVID, that when COVID hit, that I needed to buy and my head was ready to explode as everything was dropping down. I thanked God and God being Steve at that point for the next 2 years as all those things went straight up. I remember buying RCL saying, I can't believe it, talking to my wife saying, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm buying a cruise line when no one can go cruising. And sure enough, it jumped up. These are the things you want to look at. And again, we're not beating the drum that you should put 100% allocation out today. In fact, we're very clearly telling you should not allocate 100% of your money today. So
my investing idea is not contrarian, right? I'm not trying to be a contrarian in the market. But when I see undervalued companies that are Royal Caribbean during COVID was the easiest play I think we've ever made, right? I mean,
you said if they sold like 3 of their boats, that was more than their valuation.
Correct, yeah.
Literally.
And I think when you say numbers matter, that's one of my rules, right? Numbers matter. That's what I mean, right? Okay, the valuation, market cap at that time, I think that the stock was like $30 or something. It was like nothing.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, this is silly because the market cap of the company was below the actual intrinsic value of the company, meaning that, if they sold a few of the boats off, that the company was actually worth more than that. And they had 27 at the time, right? I think they got more than that now. So that's what I meant, right? When you look at an NVIDIA, the NVIDIA market cap right now is actually lower than what they probably can sell in inventory in a year or two. That's silly. Right. The market is always ahead of itself. We're just deciding how far ahead of ourselves.
Steve's talking about. We were buying at 30.25 for a move back up to 90 in a matter of months. And and again, we're not saying
Libra.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We just did it with Mealy. I mean, we just did that on the drop recently. Again, where you clearly brought it up when it gapped down. That gap down made no sense, and you were getting in, and look at that recovery. It was pretty easy.
The Democratic-led states are now filing lawsuit to block the Trump administration from dismantling the U.S. Department of Education here. So. I know
a lot of things are going to get, what we're going to see, unfortunately, is a lot of things. going to the courts here, without a doubt.
Speaking of the courts, I mean, I think there's a lot of lawmakers that are looking at, and we've seen this quite heavily. A lot of states have started to move to buying and putting a bill together, which I think a lot of states already are approving, and I believe some, like New Mexico, to buy Bitcoin, and not just to put a strategic reserve together, but to actually buy it. And I think that's the difference between what the Trump administration did, was like, we'll just seize what we have, not sell anymore like the Biden administration did, and then we'll just start to find places to buy it. States are looking to buy, and I mean, I'm talking billions of dollars worth. So there's a
Yeah, it's
catalyst
going to
there
be the
for Bitcoin.
states. It's going to be the pension funds. It isn't
Correct.
going to be the strategic reserve that does it. It's going to be, tied to get raised all together at one time on that. Counties, communities, we know cities and, like Miami that are looking to do things like that as, also. Yeah, I mean, again, Bitcoin's another one that, if you loved it at 100, why you don't like it down in that when it hits 70s? Like I said, right now, I'm a buyer at 80. Every time hits 80 here, I'm a buyer. It just, yeah. I'll thank you on the way. I'll sell it back to you in a few
All right,
months.
we're open here.
Open tick down about 415 here. First moves to the downside.
It just proves it. If we stop tweeting, the markets would probably go up on its own at this point.
Market wants to move to the upside. They know valuations. They're scared of, everything is all about the tweet right now is what's going on. It didn't help that Putin and Russia, they announced this morning that they are not going to accept the terms put in place for a 30-day ceasefire, that they were too conducive to Kiev. So that definitely has a little bit of a weight on what's going on also here. DXY threatening to go back above 104 here.
Bitcoin back above 83,000 here.
So we can see we're probably headed back up towards this 104.50 area on DXY if it continues to move up today. Although since the cash market opened, it's kind of moving to the downside. So maybe we see a little bit of sanity there.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, Intel INTC really moving up here.
Yeah, like I said, that one hadn't slowed down like we had seen on most before. Now up 14%. Take a look here. It's starting to get a little bit of volatility where, again, if you were a big winner on that here, make sure you get some trailing stops in there. Take advantage. Dollar Tree moving on. I mean, Dollar General moving up earlier now, giving back some of those gains here, back down.
I think we go positive in Nasdaq. I think we go higher. I think we go positive because you know what? The VIX isn't moving. 24 and a quarter here. It's not moving to the upside or downside. So I think we go back higher a little bit. Yeah, the advanced decline line pushing up a bit here.
Yeah.
So.
I have to laugh. Dollar General had good earnings. Dollar Tree went up in sympathy. Dollar General is retracing, and Dollar Tree is still moving up. Go ahead and figure things out. That's the craziness of the markets these days. UPath down 16.15%. So as Steve said here, not buyers really stepping in there. Now down at 987. Adobe, another one that's struggling tremendously here today, down at 393.39. So at the lows of the morning. So Adobe continuing to slide here. Intel trying to break up 15%. So nice move up by Intel. Trying to see if any of yesterday's biggest losers. We are seeing a little bit of a bounce back by Verizon. They got hit pretty hard yesterday, now up 1.5%. Pepsi, same thing, got hit pretty hard yesterday, up about 60 basis points here this morning. So we are seeing a little bit of move up. Mag 7 getting hit pretty hard here. NVIDIA holding its own, Microsoft holding its own. The others all down almost 1%. So we are seeing a little bit of a move, a slide to the downside.
I think at this point on the Mag 7, I think the people are just chasing the short side of this, and then they're absolutely crushed.
I wonder that, the zero DTEs. I do have our man Todd Horowitz, Bubba Trading, coming in at noon today. Going to ask him a little bit about that. We talked, you and I talked a little bit about that, but those zero DTEs earlier this week set all kinds of records on the SPY, and we see this volatility in the morning. My question for him is, how is he trading it and what's going on there? But it's a little bit of a bounce from back up here. QQQ is down about 22 basis points. Did drop as low as 470, 473, and now bouncing back towards 476 here. So we are seeing some buyers step in. Again, I avoid this first half hour of the day trading right now because it's just no rhyme or reason to the way things move. Nice move up by MSTR here today. Again, that was another one that was one of the most down in the pre-market hours.
If we see the VIX here drop below 24, the market could just pop a little bit here. I mean, really pop. I think we could see green everywhere here in a little bit. We're about to go green the Nasdaq anyway, but
yeah, path now down 17.46.
You know what? I mean, when you start to see these companies getting beat up like that, that's too much, right? They may come right back up. So I'd be careful there on shortened path.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why chase?
VIX slightly negative. Advanced decline is negative 500 here. VIX is pretty flat at 2420. Not a bunch of movement. We see the Dow Jones down 12 basis points, SPY down 13 basis points, Qs are down almost.
Reports that the White House has pulled Trump's nomination, Dr. David Weldon, to lead the CDC. It's according to ABC News. So the CDC won't have a leader just yet.
I will say so far, VWAP on the 1-minute chart is holding up here.
Come on, VIX.
Support needs to stay up here. VIX trying to get back below that 24 handle for you.
Do it.
Gold is 29.50 on gold here, Steve. Same thing. Bitcoin moving up 82.779. So we are seeing a little bit of a flight to safety here this morning.
I mean, look at oil. Oil is slipping $67.
Broke to the downside pretty big here. Lows of the day 474.40 here. So Q's just broke to the lows of the day.
I mean, it's all about Trump's tweets. I mean, if he could stop tweeting, the market would
just broke to the lows of the day also. Advanced decline just went down 260. So again, that's why this first half hour, you've got to have some real conviction to get in early.
I'm not scared.
Yeah. JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, so the three largest publicly traded banks are up slightly here this morning, with Bank of America up almost 0.5 percentage point. Taking a look here, the other leaders when it comes to banks in the green look to be overseas. HSBC from Canada, MUFG from Japan, TD another Canadian-based, and SMFG another Japanese-based. Some of the other big leaders so far.
116.56 to 116.65 now on NVIDIA. We're about to hit near the highs of the day. 117 was a high there.
And we are seeing chips in general, NVIDIA and broadband both moving up. TSM, ASML, AMD, and Texas Instrument all on the downside. We know Intel, the big winner, and continuing to move up here now at 24.05, Steve, up 16.44%. So again, you got a runner here, regained its 200-day MA. Definitely some definite upward movement here on Intel. Let me take a look at what is.
Gold is pushing here. Look at this. Gold is now $29.50 now an ounce. We're almost at 3,000 an ounce. Is that
that move up this morning? It was at 29.
We are getting very close. 29.56 would be, I think, the all-time high, if I'm not mistaken. So we are about $6 away from an all-time high in gold. 33.25 here now on silver. So I'm really liking this. Probably should get Peter in here at some point. Talk to us about this, but this is getting wild.
Tick is still negative. Now moved positive here, 150. Advanced decline minus 400. So not a ton of movement so far.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like the selling here is not scared selling. Anybody selling here, I think, is just silly at this point, to be honest with you. Because quite frankly, the VIX isn't telling you that. The advanced decline is not telling you that. The tick's not telling you that. All of these things aren't telling you that. They're just telling you that there's some wonkiness going on. The market's not. That's okay by me. I like wonkiness. I'll take advantage of them every single day.
Absolutely. I don't blame you for that. I know.
Barclays now says that they see 2 Fed cuts in 2025 after cutting U.S. GDP estimates. Two, I understand I think they're being a little cautious in a lot of ways. I think there should be 3 or 4, to be honest. And the Fed's way behind the 8 ball now. We know that
Right.
people are losing their jobs, especially now in the DC area. We now know that if Dollar General's going up, people are looking for deals, right, to save money. So the Fed needs to get off the duff and start cutting because we're going to have problems. Now, I get it. They're worried about inflation going back up. If people don't have a house, they're not buying eggs, right? If they can't live, they're not buying. They're not. So,
Right.
people, come on, Fed, think about this a little bit. All right, 24.12. We're just about there on that breakout on the VIX here. We need to see the VIX below 24 handle, and we're going tick down. Advanced decline now only down 340 now, so we could go positive quite heavily pretty soon here.
We do see Intel now up 17.67%. Moderna, a big winner here, up 7.24 this morning. Dollar Tree, like we said, and Dollar General, the next big gainers here. AES, NEM, which is Newmont Corporation, and the Dow Company, all the leaders here this morning. Your Royal Caribbean up 2.62%. You booked a couple more cruises there, BigBeat?
I got 6 free ones, so another 6. So look, I
Also
get
seen
it.
a nice move up by Ford Motors here, up 2.16% too, Steve. T-Mobile a winner. Some of the oil producers, Marathon up 2%, on semiconductor back up 1.98% here.
Yep.
I talked about Verizon making the bounce back from yesterday where it really had been down. Phillips 66 now up. So as you've seen oil move into those ranges that you like, we are seeing some of the oil companies get a little bit of a bid here today. Biggest losers so far today, Adobe down 10.45, although as I speak about oil companies gaining, Altation, not one of them, Team down 5.22%. One of the companies that you are not a huge fan of, the Trade Desk, Steve, down 4.16 today. Fortinet down 3.47. So again, software companies that have a tremendous reliance on the federal government for contracts are getting hit after Path's drop here. Zscaler, another one, down 3.31%. Intuit down 3.23%. We talked about the EPA changes that have PACCAR and Cummins down here this morning. So those are some of the bigger losers. Tesla, who has been a big winner the last couple of days, down 2.93. That's more of a return to the mean, in my personal opinion there. Tick is moving up 200, 260 now. Advanced decline, trying to go flat on the day. And we do see the Qs have moved off of the bottoms and now at 475.75. Yeah. So moving back up.
Now, I will say something that's starting today at noon. Look, I want everybody to understand this. One of the theses of why I'm shorting the VIX here, puts, is March Madness, right? It starts today. It starts at noon today. Indiana and Oregon plays today. The Big Ten tournament, all the tournaments around the country are starting today. And then, of course, the big tournament, the March Madness tournament, starts next week. And it's one of the few times when the market slows down, okay? That's why I'm thinking, oh, there's 24 right now on the VIX right now. We're going to go below, right? Because people are going to stop watching the market. Volatility is going to go down. Volume is going to go down. And there may be some wonkiness in this market. So just be careful out there. I'm not playing this market. You all know what my positions are. I've already told everybody. If you don't know them, so tell you again, I'm short the VIX, VXX. I got puts. I've got everything. And I'm long NVIDIA, which I think is just, it's too silly not to be going long NVIDIA down here. And I will say this much, that I get it, that the Trump tweets, but let's see what happens, right? I think right now that the next few weeks, the markets are going to slow down, okay? And then because of that, be careful out there, right? Put on protection, right? As I call it, market condoms. You want to put those limit orders in and make sure that you are doing those things that protect your positions. If you don't know what market orders are, for limit orders, I'm happy to teach you that. We have an education platform inside of Quasar Markets. But I will say that, look, valuations are getting back to normal. You don't get nervous because of who the president is, right? We're going to ignore that pretty soon. And when that happens, we're going to go right back up. So I get it. Path of least resistance, right? The market's about one thing only, the path of least resistance. And this is the path of least resistance. It's been to the downside. It's easy, but it's not. We're going to go back up. World's going to change. Everything will be fine. But when you hear from Trump saying that everything's going to be fine in Ukraine and Russia's going to be back, well, Russia said no, we're not. We're going to go take over the Kursk region, and they did, right? So there are things happening here. I understand that people feeling like I don't know what's going on. Then I'm going to run for the hills. Well, that's the dumbest thing ever, right? Even Warren Buffett didn't run for the hills. He just raised cash because he has a lot of it.
Absolutely.
He didn't sell out of all of his positions and go sit in his eating Dairy Queen. He didn't do that. He lowered his positions, raised a bunch of cash. He raised the biggest cash pile in history. So that's a telltale sign. But no, I see we're still selling a little bit here. But look, the advanced decline line's only down 210. So what's being sold here is just zero DTEs, and they'll probably get caught here. They'll get the
Mag 7 all now down in the green. From green to red here, we see Nvidia down a 0.5 percentage point is doing the best, along with Microsoft. Tesla getting hit the hardest, along with Meta and Amazon, all down more than 2%. Tesla down 3.5% here. As Steve mentioned, ticks pretty now a little bit negative, but have been pretty flat. Advanced decline went from plus 500 to down 300. So we are seeing some weakness come in for sure across QQQ, now down 70 basis points. So we are seeing some.
I mean, look, I like this sell-off in Tesla. I do. I like it a lot. I think that those of you know, I bought on Monday and I sold yesterday. I had a great nice big run. But if I like it, I'd like it again, right? I think people are being a little wonky about. I mean, I get it. Elon's his worst enemy, right? His own worst enemy in a lot of ways. Yep. But the fact that he's sitting like that, he's still Elon Musk. He's still sitting in the White House whenever he wants to go. That's people in the world would love it to be able to be a fly on the wall, no matter who the West Wing is. It's a pretty big deal, right? So. Yeah. He has his finger on the pulse of the world. He's got his finger on the pulse of outside of the world. He's laying things. He's setting rockets up, right? So I kind of like this again. Let it play out a little bit longer today, and I think you can go buy it back in and go long again.
Yep, I can't argue with that. There, tick is negative 281 here. Advanced decline now down 345. So we've had pretty much an exact turnaround there. We see the Dow now down 30 basis points, VIX back up to 24.24 here, and moving to the upside slightly. Gold again moving to the upside, as you mentioned, threatening to break its all-time high here of 29.56, 29.51.50 here. As you mentioned, we'll get Peter Thomas on here either later this week or early next week to talk about everything going on in the gold and metals markets.
We're hearing reports of Bank of America with massive early buyers of over 10,000 calls for January 2027 for $40 calls. They paid $650.
Wow, that's a big buy there. And I did mention, and earlier, again, all three of the biggest U.S. banks had been up. JP Morgan got hit hard here, now down almost 1%. So moving again to lowers, things are setting. Lower lows is the way of the day for some of these. Again, if you start to look at the valuation of a JP Morgan when it was at 280, you liked it. Why don't you like it at 225? Biggest bank in the United States. One that tends to have a lot of money to spend on days like today, right?
I think JP Morgan is going to go to the well and borrow money and buy companies out. This is what I mean. Mergers and acquisitions is what they do very, very well. Jamie has been very negative on the world itself. He said there's problems out there. He's not wrong. But my goodness, I mean, does anybody knows how to print money? It's JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon. So he's not going anywhere. He told you that. So I do like this buy down here. But banks
I'll tell you what, as you can see, I'm charting out sort of a liquidity zone here that I would look to acquire into this 220, 219, 225 on a further dip, which you can see was its key resistance back here when it gapped up in November on the election news. This is where it had been its key resistance. It has swung to support. You see how it worked here in the middle of December.
All right, Mexico's economy minister said tariffs on steel and aluminum are a bad idea. We can take other measures. So it looks like everything we talked about, Mexico and Canada backing down, they're not backing down. So This is why tariffs wars never, ever, ever work. They just don't. They never work.
Yeah, JP Morgan down 1.25, 1.27 to the downside. So again, market's getting talked down by these tweets, tick down minus 383 here, advanced decline minus 629. VIX and VIX staying pretty steady. So that's where I think it goes to your indiscriminate sell-off here, because if there was the huge volatility, we would see that spike up, right? If we saw it, yeah. Like you said, I think for every retail seller that's getting spooked
Mexico's
here,
economic minister Ebrand now says Mexico will start consultations on possible response measures. So it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's definitely got us. QQQ, though, has sort of bottomed out at about 50 basis points. It had gotten down as low as 473.5, back up at 474. So it is moving a little bit to the upside here. But you can see what that downward volatility, it was volatile, and on the volatility just led to the downside. So it's been a fight. The buyers are getting beat up by the sellers right now. We're seeing some buyer exhaustion so far. Minus 500, advanced decline now, minus 800, moving pretty rapidly to the downside here this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this is just trade talks. I think that's what it is. It's just trade talk. I think it's talk. We haven't seen much tariffs actually being implemented. So a lot of this is just bully pulpit talk.
As you mentioned, Bank of America with those call buys sort of sets a direction that institutions seem to be leading to here. I did mention too this morning on those tariffs, some companies that might be beneficiaries here in the U.S. on a huge tariffs on imports of liquor and wine, especially Brown-Forman. Not a huge one, but they are up 1.61%. Have to think some of it's that news. Constellation would probably be the one that would be the biggest winner, STZ. Constellation is the largest U.S.-based wine company, up about 59 basis points here. It's jumped up on that Trump tweet, so that was when it did take off here today. So we'll see if that gets some love here, but they would be a beneficiary as they compete with French wines and Italian Proseccos and all that stuff tremendously with their products that are made either here in the U.S.
Mexico's econ minister goes on to say we'll have intense talks in coming weeks over U.S. tariffs. So the talk coming out of Mexico is pretty serious here.
You know, and I was preaching yesterday, as you know, that Canada maybe should follow what we had seen from Mexico, right? Because we know Canada went on the offensive early this week.
Trump says Canada needs America. America does not need Canada.
That's like I said, these things just, take away his phone right now, please. Tick is hating what he's saying. Staying negative 400, 500, advanced decline now negative over 1,000.
What we're really not talking about, Howard, is the government shutdown.
Right. We know the House avoided it so far, but the Senate goes. I don't know when that Senate vote is.
We're hearing reports now that Oracle has emerged as a leading contender to help run TikTok, ORCL here.
We know that Ellison made that bid earlier. Here, they're still down 2.15%. They were down further at 145, so they've had a $2 bounce on that news. Now they're moving to the upside here, 148.11.
It's coming out now everywhere now. We broke that news to you pretty quickly here. Hopefully you were online when you heard us say it. Yeah, Bitcoin now below 82,000 here.
Yeah, if I had to guess, Dixie is moving up. Yeah, DXY now 103.87. So DXY is making the move right all the way through the zone that we had been talking about with Mr. Flanagan here. If we watch, the low was 1.103.40 to keep an eye on. It did briefly break below it Monday. Now we're pushing back up towards that 104.50 area. So
I do like oil down here at 67.06 now a barrel on WTI like crude. I will say that anywhere in the 66s are a buy down there on light sweet.
I will say VIX is starting to spike a little bit at 24.43 here with the tick going down another 453. Advanced decline now negative 1,200. So VIX is starting to follow. Bitcoin stuck at 81,880 here. It was nicely over 82. It challenged 83 even earlier. Gold still moving up, 24.50 here. So right at the spot. Could it make a new all-time high here? We'll see. As Steve mentioned, WTI's pulled back to 66.78 here, down about 67 basis points so far this morning. If we look at the Spider Select funds to see what is up and what is down, energy is up, XLE. I see that XLU utilities is up, XLB, which is materials, and XLP, which is consumer staples, followed by healthcare. Big loser is consumer discretionary, down 1.76%, followed by XLK, which we know is the technology sector, getting hit pretty hard here, which you can see right across the Qs, which are now down almost a full percentage point here at 96 basis points to the downside.
I'm still not scared about all of this. All this talk, and you would think that the world was just ending today, and it's not. I mean, I think that the capitulation happened on Monday. I think that's what's happening. I think people are. I think it's just being silly at this point to sell. Because you're chasing.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I've been beating the valuations are there, or that this is the time you start to dip in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I have the same philosophy as you here. This is, unfortunately, these sell-offs are completely tweet based, and that's sort of part of the issue here. Let's see what's still moving here. Is Intel still moving to the upside? 15.3%. So Intel 2382 had broken as high as 2450 here, seeing a little bit of a sell-off. And now we do see that slide. I'd be careful over here. If it breaks below this VWAP at 2371, you'll start to see the day traders move to the downside. Also, as we mentioned, Dollar General and Dollar Tree give you a run on what's going on in the economy here in the U.S. Both of them up 6% so far. If I pull up my other e-commerce, let's see what's going on there. And again, the rest of them, Amazon down almost 2%, Alibaba down 1% here, Shopify down 5.81%, Mealy down 1.1%, SE, which is a Chinese play, down 2.53%. Most of them getting hit here. Carvana down another 5%, back at 170 here. Etsy down 2%, Wayfair down another 4% here. So across the board, Walmart down 66 basis. Costco back at 902, Steve, down 2.68% here, threatening to go to the downside even more. Wow. I told you I like Costco in this 890, 871, 891 areas, but where I've been sort of looking at as a decent zone, maybe again of liquidity to dip the toes in. Starting to approach that on any more of a dip here. So that
I think the selling is still pretty strong in Costco. Wow, we're still seeing some. Yeah.
Oh, it definitely is. It's hitting it hard. Like I said, I mean, it's still got $30 to go down to the downside to my liquidity zone. So it would take another, few percentage points to get it there for sure. But you can see e-commerce getting beat up. It's funny that, with all this talk of tariffs, it's not surprising. Cleveland Cliffs up 3% today. Nucor up 1.05%. Steel Dynamics up 1.42%. Steve. Commercial Metal Company CMC up 1.07. Century Aluminum, Kaiser Aluminum, Reliance, which is aluminum, Worthington, all up this morning on sort of this news.
I mean, Amazon right now, I'm looking at Amazon, and this is getting ridiculous.
2.24. Tesla down almost 5% here. Steve, how about Meta down at under 600? Meta 598.92 and moving to the downside. I'll point out that its low here of 2025's 588.88. So we got things that are coming back down towards Monday's levels here. That gets a little bit scary at those levels. Tick negative 700. Advanced decline now negative 2,000. Qs have given up 1.16%. RUT's given up 58 basis points. The SPY 70 basis points, and the Dow Jones another 50 basis points. Gold unable to break to all-time highs, sticking at that 29.50 area, but trying to make a run now again. Let's take a look quickly at the currencies here. DXY 103.86. So again, continuing to move to the upside. The high today was 104.08. So it's got a little bit more room to the upside here to get above where it was earlier. Any break above that, I think, would signal even more stress on the markets. Bitcoin 81,758, so down 2.23% here today. Again, it's made a big move back to the upside from that 77 on Monday. So
I like this down here. I think we hold it and we go bounce right back up. I like Amazon down here. I'm looking at the weekly chart here on Amazon. This is really looking really good here. PE ratio is 35. I mean, we're getting back. Beta is at 1.34. Of course, the earnings are still pushing higher. They're beating on the earnings. They're beating really big still.
Yeah, they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight earnings beats. And they come into earnings.
Implied vol has dropped to 34%. I mean, this thing is really starting to look better and better here. I like this. I could see $200 calls, leaps here.
Yeah, long dated. Like you said, for those that don't know, leaps is a cheaper way to play calls. You're buying long dated out of the money calls and then selling.
Well, I'm just gonna stay long on. I think I'll buy some long dated calls here. I'm gonna put my mind to work here a little bit, but I like this play here a lot. Now we're talking about what to buy or sell. I know a lot of people listen to what I say and then just do it. But I do like this play here, and maybe even looking at really long dated calls. By the way, you can in the system and Quasar Markets, you can all of options are in there. You can look at all the options up there.
It ticks down 400 here, Steve. Advanced decline down 21.15. VIX has moved back up now, almost 2% on the day, 24.70 here. So we are seeing that. QQQ down 1.26. SPY down 70 basis points. It does seem to be finding a decent floor right below that 555 level. So we'll see if it can hold at that level here. It is starting the last 5 minutes or so to find a little bit of a bottoming here. Is that the start of us to recover, or will we see another leg?
Secretary of the Treasury Besant is now on CNBC, by the way.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I do see him. I'm talking about market volatility. Steve, we do need to jump off so that your video goes on here at 10:05 with Kevin Green. Everybody tune into this. It's a 30-minute video that Steve did last night with senior market correspondent Kevin Green. Kevin is a legend in the markets. He has been at Schwab. He has 13 years of experience in the financial industry, and he leads a team of derivatives trading specialists at Charles Schwab. So we were very lucky to have him on, and Steve did an interview with him. We have that coming up. I am back on today at 12 with Todd Bubba Horowitz, which is always a fun time. We'll have him on talking everything going on with the Mag 7. Is he buying this dip? Also ask him about zero DTEs we're going to talk about. I got Jeremy Vreeland on at 12:20 following Bubba, and we're going to talk with Jeremy about wheel trades. That's his specialty. It's something that he works very hard on. He's going to be doing videos on a regular basis on Quasar Markets, and one of the educators you'll find in our platform as that opens up over the next few weeks. So we're going to have him in here today. And then we are back at 1 o'clock with the blue collar investor talking about covered calls and the 5 things to avoid when looking at covered calls. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. BigBeat, thank you like always. What are your final words of the day, my man?
I ain't scared.
I love it. I love it. We will see you here, same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. on Quasar Markets Live.